welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the sales sessions or made good use of the time. I don't need to introduce myself again, but I would love to introduce you to my panelists. So starting at the far end, we have Anthony Cox. Anthony is Head of Operations Support at the Claremont Group, and he's also a Master Inn holder, a Fellow of the Institute of Hospitality. He's a Non-Executive Director at Wivenhoe House Hotel, which is the home of the Edge Hotel School. He's previously worked as a GM and a hotel consultant. So welcome, Anthony. Ilenia Taltaval Lopez is London Cluster General Manager for Sonder, Inc., and she has previously worked with Melia, Hilton, and Minor Hotels, and is very experienced in all aspects of hotel operations. Welcome, Ilenia. Ben Moore is the Head of Client Solutions at DNA Payments, one of our sponsors today. Ben has spent 20 years in payment technology, including hands-on operations and technical efficiency roles. And last but not least, a former colleague of mine from Hilton, Tanner Yildiz. Tanner is Global Director of Operational Planning and Development with IHG. Has previously worked with, as I mentioned, Hilton, also with Swiss Hotel, now part of the Accor family. And his expertise is in openings and transitions, franchise brand performance, and brand management. So your panel, everybody. So what I want us to talk about today is how the latest innovations are helping to shape operational efficiency and deliver best-in-class guest experience. So very much looking at things with an operational lens as compared to some of the earlier sessions. So I'd like to invite our panelists to give their perspective on that topic and briefly introduce their backgrounds. So we'll start with you, Tanner, if I may.
No, thank you, David. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I actually now lead the brand standards for IHG Hotels and Resorts. It still feels new. It's been 2 years in the making. But when David and Charles invited me, I thought, what a great opportunity to share some of the operational impact on the AI as we talk about, but also what the corporations should do with the emergence of AI as well, thinking about our team members and thinking about the future readiness of the hotel operation. So looking forward to sharing my views today. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. Ben?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Ben Moore. Thank you for having me. So I've worked in, as we said, I've worked in payments for 20 years, and a large proportion of that has been in hospitality and hotels. So that's across payment service providers, acquirers, and scheme as well. So I've seen it from pretty much all angles. So a couple of bits I want to cover with the panel today, crucially around flexibility and offering those different ways to pay, but also around integration as well, and that sort of segues into how it improves the operational efficiency of the hotel. So yeah, no, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Ilenia?
Welcome. Thank you, everyone. So my name is Ilenia. I've worked with Sonder for 3 years. Maybe some of you don't know Sonder very well. It's still a very young company. I've worked in traditional hospitality all my life, but Sonder is very much started as a tech company that evolved to a hospitality company, and we are very much about automations and technology. It supports all of our day-to-day operations. So I thought it was a very good opportunity for me to be able to share some of the knowledge that I've gained with Sonder in the last 3 years regarding the efficiencies that automations can provide.
Thank you, Ilenia. And Anthony.
Thanks, David. Afternoon, everyone. So I head up operational support for Claremont Hotel Group. We've got 16 hotels, 4,000 bedrooms. Most of them are in London. My remit covers health and safety and security, food and beverage, and I've just acquired the maintenance function for our hotels. So I guess you'd say my role cuts across all those aspects. And my team's job is to support the general managers to deliver commercially and for the guests too.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. I think collectively you're all going to bring a lot of value to this to this conversation. So starting off with technology and guest experience, I want to explore how technology has changed the guest journey and whether it hasn't always done it for the better. And I'm interested to kind of tease out any thoughts from you about whether in some cases it risks making things worse for the guest, and also how it has improved things. So starting with you, Anthony, can you provide an example where technology's helped to reduce friction or surprise and delight your guests?
That's a surprisingly hard question for an operator. I think surprise and delight for me is about emotional reactions, and that really can only be delivered by people. So I think my sense is that, of course, embrace technology in every aspect that we can. However, for me, at the moment, it's about giving operations teams time and space to look after the guests, so we can automate, or if we can make a process simpler and take that away from the operations team, and they can focus on who's in front of them. That for me is the key.
Yeah, so technology has its place, but it's not necessarily front and center for the guest. Ilenia, how have guests responded, in your experience, to some of the digital enhancements compared to traditional service? Have you seen any pushback, and particularly in your experience with Sonder, where it's very tech influenced?
Definitely, there is pushback. I think for us, most of the guests that come to Sonder, either they book Sonder because they know who we are and they understand the self-directed journey that we provide, or by the time they get to us, they've learned about us because of all the information that we provide prior to arrival. But when they don't, and when the guest is coming to us expecting the traditional experience of hospitality, then there is a pushback because we don't quite meet their expectations. And I have to say that we're very we're very heavy reliant on technical automations. It's not for everybody, and sometimes the pushback can come as well when things don't quite go to plan, which it does happen in operations. With the mistakes happen, we then need to be very quick to react with the human element, with the team that we have on board. Otherwise, there is a pushback of, well, you've got the tech, but it's not really providing the experience that we were looking for. But as long as guests understands that the technology is there, then the pushback is relatively minor.
Thank you. I also wonder if there's sometimes a tendency for team members to blame the tech when things do go wrong. I mean, the tech may be at fault, but sometimes I think it can be used as an excuse. Tanner, on the brand side, how do you ensure technology upgrades align with your brand standards and avoid losing the personal touch?
Yeah, I think that there are two things. We all, I think, confuse systems versus service. So I think system upgrades often interpreted as if it will bring some complexity to the business, and it does. But actually, how do we incorporate this into onboarding programs of the team members? And also, when it comes to pre-arrival messages, do we need to, change them and work with the technology partners, making sure that what we have planned to do had been communicated to the guest as well from that standpoint. So I think it's a combination of tech readiness and making sure that the technology is ready, but are your team members ready, and are your guests ready? So I think that's often the underestimated area. So from a standard standpoint, I see a lot of standard changes or standard change submissions on that front. So I think there's always that compliance period where you need to allow certain markets and certain brands to be compliant with the future readiness of the programs. So.
Okay, thank you. And Ben, from a payment technology perspective, how can that technology play a role in influencing, shaping guest experience? We talk about high friction moments, so check-in and check-out. I had an experience where, thanks to the choice of bank that I made, so I don't consider it a hotel problem. I was unable to check in online to stay at a hotel last night. So those sorts of things, how do you account for that?
Yeah, I think it's really important. So I think although payments really should be, or certainly automated payments should be a back-end function, payments are often the first and last touch point for the guest in your hotel or your hotel group. So I think on the front end, the flexibility in ways to pay, I think it's really, really important nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, it's card presentment at front desk is still a core method of taking payment, but there has to be a flexible option. I mean, I don't know if my cards are still in my wallet. I genuinely can't remember the last time I used my cards, right? So, me personally, I really do expect digital wallets to be an acceptable way to pay. But then on the last, you know, you mentioned checkout there, and you know, the last touch point with the guest with the hotel could even be post-stay. You know, if something goes wrong in the back end and they're double charged, what's the likelihood of that guest returning to the hotel? They don't know the mechanics behind it, why that would have happened. All they know is that you know, for a £700 stay, they were charged £1,400, and then it took 7 days to go back in their account.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just two elements there, really, especially with the friction points, is flexibility in the ways to pay, but then also resiliency as well. Resiliency on the platforms, but then resiliency thereafter as well.
Yeah, thank you. And just as a little extra question, have any of you encountered any areas where technology has evidently made the guest experience worse? Putting you on the spot a bit here, but
I mean, I think from a payments perspective, not really. I think hotels are quite risk averse when they're dealing with payments. Ultimately, that's the revenue, right? That's the revenue coming to the business. There have been, I would say, I had an experience recently. I was staying at a hotel in Dublin, and I got sent an online check-in link, which was, I thought, great. You know, myself preferring those digital wallets, brilliant. I was out and about, and they didn't accept digital wallets. I didn't have my physical card on me, so I couldn't do that then. So then immediately, I've never stayed at that hotel before, but then I've got a preconception around what their systems are like. When I arrived at the hotel, I did enter my card details when I arrived home, but when I arrived at the hotel, they asked me to present my card again. And so I kind of said, like, we should have one on file. I checked in online. Oh, no, that's not technically an online check-in. That's just, we take the card in case it's a no-show and type that manually into the PMS. And it's that kind of, I think that kind of thing.
Yeah, it goes back to what you were saying about the guest doesn't understand how those processes work. All they're seeing is a complicated experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to operational effectiveness and how we can use innovation to enhance that. So, talking about back of house and behind the scenes efficiency. So, Anthony, back to you. How has the use of technology enhanced your team's productivity, reduced errors, things like that? Can you think of some examples?
Yeah, we've got a great example of that, actually. Our central reservations hub, 4 or 5 years ago now, deployed a digital worker called Bertie. And Bertie takes on a lot of those processes in that sort of guest journey, all of the boring stuff, to be quite honest with you, with a high degree of accuracy. What that has brought about is a tangible saving in FTE, full-time equivalent headcount, within that area. Now, some people may say that as a negative, you know, reducing headcounts, but actually it's increased our team satisfaction within that environment. It's made the environment a nicer place to work. So I think that's something that Claremont adopted quite early.
Excellent. Elenia, what automation have you implemented on property? And from what you said, there's quite a lot with Sonder. And how has that helped the team to adapt their roles?
So, I mean, Sonder, in their 11 years of life, has been through constant change, and a lot of the long-term team members that are with us are very much used to needing to adapt. As I said, all of our front of house processes are automated, and the team see the benefit of the tools that we use because it makes their life easier. It removes a lot of, as you said, the boring stuff, and it allows them space to spend time with the guests and really engage. I think as long as the team sees the benefit of the tech tool that you're using, the automation, as long as it's the right one, because not every solution it's the right one for the business or for the moment, then the team will adapt to use it. We do recruit as well based on certain skills that we need for Sonder, so not everyone will enjoy using the tools that we use, so that's important as well.
Yeah.
And we mentioned onboarding before. I think that, that the onboarding process is very important. We spend a lot of time training our team members before, leaving them at the reception, because really understanding how the systems work and how to best use the tools is very, very important. Without that, it's very difficult for them to adapt to something that is not quite the right fit.
Great, thank you. Yeah, something I heard at another event recently was that AI and automation is best suited to handling simple tasks and thereby freeing up the time of the team members to handle the more complex tasks. So, Tana, over to you. From a global franchise perspective, where do you see the greatest return on innovation investment?
Yeah, I think this is the most important topic, right? All our investors and some of you may be investors here as well, they look for that return of investment, right? They would like to make sure that whatever they have invested on is providing that value. So I think I'm going to say something more corporate here, but I think it can be translated into hotels as well. So proper piloting, I will say. So I think we as companies sometimes forget about the power of a proper proof of concept or user experience testing and things of that nature, right? So I think we jump into conclusions sometimes too quickly.
Yeah.
So I think there is opportunity for small and big investors to take their time and really make sure that the solution that they would like to invest in is actually tailored to their needs and not for the best solution all the time. Yeah. So I think from an investor point of view, that's important. From a franchising model standpoint, it all again goes back to scalable partnerships across the globe, but also it could be a startup or a scale-up that's up and coming, and they may just be the right solution for their market. So.
Excellent, thank you. And Ben, how does automation in the payment process, so for things like reconciliation, fraud detection, and so on, how does that translate to operational benefits?
Well, I think the key here is really heavy on integration. Right? It's everything payments-wise that a hotel should implement should be integrated. Immediately, you improve the operational efficiency, in the back end. In terms of other efficiencies that are available on the payments ecosystem, you mentioned fraud there, fraud solutions. Having implement a good fraud solution via your payment service provider or your acquirer, it will cut down on those chases, those chargeback challenges, things like that. You kill it at the source, basically, which is exactly what you should be doing. And then all of a sudden, when you start to measure those operational efficiencies that you have in there. And then in addition to that, look at the auxiliary services that your PSP might provide. So for example, APIs for reconciliation. Becoming more the norm now, certainly for retail environments, but personally, our business, we've developed reporting and settlement APIs. So we have customers now doing automatic reconciliation, AI-driven sometimes as well. So you basically get in the morning as an accounting person, and you can see what you've taken on the front end. You can see for the transactional level data, and then you can pull the settlement data in as well, record by record, as to what's hit the bank. All of a sudden, big green ticks across the board. You've saved however long it takes your accounting teams to do that. So, we're seeing payment service providers now they're providing more and more auxiliary services that support the operational efficiencies of these businesses. So, it's exciting.
Great, thank you. And that segues nicely into a section where we want to sort of drill a little bit more, in a bit more detail into frictionless payments and digital transactions. So on the theme of how payments, check-ins and digital services affect the customer experience and benefit revenue, starting again with you, Ben, what trends are you seeing in payment preferences in hospitality? How are they influencing guest spend and guest satisfaction?
Yeah, I would say, look, I'll go back to the ways to pay sort of statement there. So the digital wallets are huge. In the last 4 years, there's been a 35% increase in the use of digital wallets, pretty much across all sectors. I think hotels have probably been a little slower than other sectors to adopt that, but it's a massive drive now. Like myself, the example that I used, was unable to use a digital wallet, didn't have a card on me. Then what you might find there is someone might not come back to that touch point.
Yeah.
So then you're automatically implementing or actioning queues at the front desk because you haven't offered that as a payment method. So I think it's really important to look at the digital wallet side of things. And that's where we are today. That's technology that's more than readily available. Speak to your PSP; they should be able to offer those payment methods. But then I think if we look a little bit further into the future, so this year we'll have a mandate from the schemes for network tokenization, for example. And I just want to bring back to an example of a conversation that I had with a hotel. It was only a 3-property hotel. It was a few weeks back, and it turns out across their properties they had 5 PSPs. Because each ISV that they use for front desk, for spa, for golf, etc., they've monetized payments. So each of those now has a exclusivity with their own payment provider. And it just seems madness to me. The operational overhead on reconciling through those 5 channels is just crazy. So the thing with network tokenization that will be mandated by the schemes this year is you can bring that tokenization up a level. So at the moment, it's between the merchant and the PSP. So you've got, across those 5, for one single guest, across those 5 channels, you've got 5 separate tokens. Now the networks are, the schemes are bringing that up to the network level. So right. For that one person, you've got a global view in terms of a tokenized card. Okay. So I actually kicked off some conversations with some industry peers to look at how we bring that tokenized data together. It might involve some work from the ISVs to look at how we pull that in. And then, one touch point into your hotel will then tokenize that guest and not specifically the card. Right. Then I think that changes the way that you can, seamlessly implement payments across the hotel, across the region, across the group.
Great, thank you. That sounds like a good innovation. Anthony, what operational or staffing efficiencies have you seen from digital check-in, check-out, F&B ordering, and other sort of transactional experiences like that?
Predominantly F&B within our group. Obviously, mobile ordering, payment technology. We've got some sizable F&B outlets with some big footprints, very, very busy sites, and particularly outdoor when the sun comes out. So one of the things we're looking at doing is actually making that process far easier for our guests so they can continue to order. Yeah. So it's easy to build multiple rounds or drinks into their experience with us. So that's one area we're looking to refine what we're doing at the moment. I think in terms of digital, we're looking at kiosks too. We've got a pilot going in about a month's time in one of our hotels. So that's been an interesting journey thus far.
Excellent, thank you. Elenia, from the GM's seat, does digital payment improve the guest flow? Does it reduce complaints? Can it boost ancillary revenues?
I think absolutely it improves guest flow by just opening up possibilities and giving the guest a wider choice of where to go to make a payment. It reduces, manual work, administration. It frees time And I think in regards to ancillary revenue, we've had presentations in the morning that probably have explained that better than I could ever with loads of facts. And I think that there are so many opportunities in the hotel. And I think it's true as an industry, potentially we are a little bit behind other industries that have implemented this type of technology, with many years of advance.
Thank you. And Tana, what challenges exist in rolling out frictionless payments at scale across brands or regions?
Yeah, I think the local regulations, I would say. I think, in the age of PayPal and Klarna, one side of the world is trying to adapt to those, and then you have some markets where some of the traditional methods are still being deployed. So I think there's that going on, but also, what you can do in Dubai may not be done in Berlin, for example. So I think there's that complexity as well. But I think what can be done is we can at least get our systems ready for that. And I think it goes to procurement systems and as well as payment systems, ensuring that at least you have, again, I'll go back to future-proofing. You've future-proofed your own readiness to make sure that when you are ready to deploy PayPals and Klarnas of the world, you're ready for it, rather than always playing the catch-up game. So,
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move on now, and we're, again, running a little short of time, but we're going to move on to data privacy and ethics on the theme of where the line is, and it's something we touched on a little bit this morning as well, between the smart use of data and that possibility of causing guest discomfort. And I think this morning's session kind of outlined that most people don't feel that line is often crossed, but just a few questions on that subject. Ben, in the payment space, how do you ensure that guest data stays secure and compliant?
Well, firstly, I think there's a lot more data being passed by payment companies, whereas previously there wasn't. It's someone comes to the front desk with a piece of plastic. There's very minimal data that's taken off that card for that card holder. With the shift into digital payments, there is a lot more that we have to collect to facilitate an e-commerce payment, for example. So we, in terms of, there's two ways that we would look at this. There's what we pass back to the originator, so if that's the PMS, the booking system, or the booking engine, or whatever that might be. There is an MVP that we'll pass back for them to be able to store. Those guys have that information on that particular guest anyway. But then from our perspective, we are very heavily regulated as to what we can store, how we store it, for the length of time that we store it, and not just from a GDPR perspective, but we get audited, on that data. So sort of every 6 months or so. So from our perspective, it's managed by the regulatory agencies and stuff. But there is stuff that we can do to limit what we pass back as well.
Okay, thank you. And Tana, from a brand standard perspective, how do brands balance personalization with respect for guest privacy?
yeah, I think it goes back to what do you do with the data? We all collect data, and lots of companies still collect data today. But what do you do with it is the question mark. I think as long as it's not invasive and it's transparent to what you're collecting, so there's definitely value to it. I think most of the backlash comes from when you were not given the opportunity to sign up to something, and then when you try to unsubscribe from a newsletter or something, and then you've never subscribed to it, but you've been subscribed to it somehow. So I think that's where the dilemma starts, and there's a lot of money involved in this. So as long as, like I said, this isn't invasive and the guests' preferences are protected, I think there's a lot of space there. So.
Thank you. And Anthony, do your operational teams get enough training around data handling and ethics, do you feel?
I think with Claremont, yes. I think it's something we take very, very seriously. As you alluded to in my previous life, I've worked for smaller independent operators, and I'd say there's probably a bit of a gap there. But certainly in my organisation, we have an internal audit function as well, and this is monitored.
I think the introduction of GDPR made that of particular concern for larger organisations. I mean, all organisations should care, but lastly, Elenia, how have guests expressed concerns about how their data is used?
Yeah, some guests do, and actually I think that not as many as I would expect. I think it's quite right for guests to ask us what are we doing with the data and how are we managing it. But yes, there is a question there. As a company, we've got clear guidelines on our website. I think it's important to explain how we manage data. We do train our teams, but we also have a specialized team, trust and safety team, who actually manage all these type of queries to make sure that we are giving, the right explanation to guests that want to know how we manage their data.
Thank you. Yeah, I think some of the earlier sessions we touched upon centralizing of data and putting it all in one place. And I think a good test of that is how easy it is for your guests to ask for their data or to take out their right under GDPR to be removed from your systems. If you can do that easily and be confident that you are actually removing everything, then I think that's a good indication that your data is in good shape. So just to wrap things up, and we are a little over time, so apologies for that. So if I can ask you all very briefly just to wrap up and just say, what do each of you see as some key actionable insights for our audience that they can take away and consider to enhance their own operations? So I'll start with you, Tana.
Yeah, I think today we heard a lot about AI, and I think we should of course talk about it, but I think it's time to learn about it more as well. So I think I would encourage everyone to get a bit more curious to see what AI really is, and maybe also focus on what it isn't. So I think there's a lot of terminology that's been used on behalf of AI or instead of AI. And it may not be AI, it may be just an internal solution that already exists that's used as if it is AI. So I would encourage everyone to get more curious. So.
Okay. Ben, over to you.
Yeah, I think overbearing message from me, just from a payments perspective, is speak to your incumbent PSP, whoever that is. And one of the questions that I would ask is, what technology are we not leveraging that your customers in other sectors are? Because I think you mentioned it earlier, the hotel sector can be a little bit behind on technological advancements, especially in the payments, with the payments lens on. So I would speak to your PSP and just ask that question as to what technology you're not leveraging at the moment you potentially could.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Elenia?
I think for me, technology at the end of the day is a tool. There are many out there, and some are suitable, some are not. I think it's very important to do the research and to choose wisely, thinking of the type of brand that you have and what's your long-term goal as well, because the worst thing that you can do is choose ad hoc tools that never speak to each other, because you're going to have to go back to the beginning. And piloting, as Tana mentioned, it's extremely important. It's really the proof. If you introduce the wrong piece of technology, it's very damaging for the business. So I think choosing wisely, piloting, it's very, very important.
Thank you. And last but not least, Anthony.
Joe touched on this earlier with you, David. Bring operations in right at the very beginning before you deploy any 100%. IT. A lot of the time I see things fail because of poor adoption amongst operational teams, because they just weren't involved and it lands in front of them. So bring your ops teams in right from the get-go. We work on a subject matter expert basis, so whenever we'll start a project, we'll bring in members of the operational teams to go through the project in its entirety.
Excellent. Well, that's a good note to end upon. So I'd like to thank you all very much for a fantastic session. And I don't know if we've got time for any questions from the floor.
We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the floor?
Any questions?
Yeah. Shall I take a mic? Oh, you've got one.
Hi, I'm Rohit from PPHE. Thanks for the great panel, very good insights. I was wondering, since we're also focusing experience alongside payments, Are there also any insights you get based on different payment types guests use, different spending amounts and different type where they spend it, and how can that also add as another data point to build rich guest profiles, customize or personalize some of the offerings to them?
Thank you. Do you want to tackle that one, Ben?
Yes, that's a good question. And I think it will be bespoke to each merchant and each group, really, as to where your guests are spending and which amounts. Do people feel safer sometimes entering the card for high-value transactions? But what I would say on the flip side of that is, once you do, if you are able to do that analysis and you're able to speak to your PSP, then you can look at other technologies, payment technologies like open banking, for example. Because if you then see that you've got high corporate card usage, you can then use some of the amazing tools that we've seen, the marketing tools, the guest management tools that we've seen, to then start pushing maybe an open banking technology for payment, which will save you endlessly on corporate card fees, as an example. There is absolutely that any PSP will have the data breakdowns in terms of payments, values, etc. So I would do that analysis work and then speak to a consultant at the PSP and look at what methods you should be offering.
Does that answer your question? Thank you. Any more for any more?
Great.
No? Well, thank you very much, everyone. I think it's time now for afternoon tea.
Afternoon tea, absolutely. And I've got the bowl ready, so anyone who's done their meetings, please drop their card.
Thanks a lot, everyone.